Senator Rob Portman is with us now, a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, among many things. Senator, thank you for taking the time.
Neil, thanks for having me on. When I was U.S. Trade Representative, we had our battles with China, and we won some and lost some. But I think you're right that things are going better. The last couple of weeks they've been better because we have a process now, and we have one person in charge, and that's the current USTR, Bob Lighthizer. But second, you're right to be skeptical, because sometimes we hear announcements of great progress, and then the reality doesn't follow. So I think it is trust but verify, and but overall, I think the market reacted properly by going up some today.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to get too lost in the market weeds here, even though I'm a nerd and I enjoy those weeds. But Senator, I am curious as to how we make the Chinese stick to this. Other presidents have been fooled by the Chinese saying one thing, doing quite another. They've spied on us, ripped off a lot of our technology. And, you know, they make promises that they're going to stop that. They make promises they're going to buy more from us, and it never materializes. So that trust and verify thing, you harken back to with Ronald Reagan. How do you do the same with the Chinese?
Well, two things. One, just follow up. I mean, we're not the greatest at sometimes following through and being sure that the commitments are kept. But second, Neil, this has to be based on market conditions. So the fact that they're saying they're going to buy more soybeans should make us happy only because our soybeans, on a question of price and quality, are the best in the world. And so, yeah, we can trust that because it's in their interest to buy our soybeans. And I think they'll continue to do that.
Not doing that, Senator, for what, since June?
Well, they had
wisely
put a lot of soybeans and other commodities in storage, so they had the ability not to. And yeah, they bought some from other countries, but frankly, we're still producing a quality and, again, at a price that makes it advantageous for them. That's in all of our interest. And generally speaking, in trade, that's when it works better, you know, where the market conditions actually end up being the thing that leads to a better result for both parties.
Let me switch gears, if you don't mind, Senator. The president yesterday kept famously telling Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi that he'd be more than happy to entertain a government shutdown to get that $5 billion in funding for a wall or more security. Do you agree with him? Is it worth shutting the government down to get that?
Well, I don't think we have to. I mean, if you look at the Democrats' votes over the years.
I know we don't have to, but if push came to shove and he's saying that's the only way to do it, would you do it?
Well, I think instead we ought to have people like you, which you do so well, Neil, explaining the reality, which is the Secure Fence Act in 2006, Democrats and Republicans support it. More recently, in the appropriations process, senators on both sides of the aisle, including some of them are now saying that they can't support a secure border, have voted for more funding for the border. So I think, you know, we have to sort of back up and say, what's the real issue here? Most Americans agree that we have to have a more secure border. Since 2006, by the way, we've built about 700 miles of fence or wall. This whole proposal would be about another 330 miles, as I see it. So we still have a 2,000-mile border. Much of it would not have a wall, and I agree. In parts of it doesn't make sense to do it in the middle of the Rio Grande Valley, you know, or the Big Bend, where you have these huge canyons. But it does make sense to do it in places like Laredo, Texas, where you have an urban area.
Well, do you think then, sir, that it was reckless of the president to even say that?
I think we should be talking about the facts, and the facts are that in the past, Democrats have supported this kind of funding. We all want a secure border, and we can do it in a way that is not a wall all across the border. That's never what the administration has supported or proposed, and we need to do it, you know, in a smart way. And I just think there's a way forward here. I really do, if we get back to the facts and sort of get away from the rhetoric and the talking points.
Well, hope springs eternal over that, but we're only 10 days away, right, from a possible shutdown, right? I mean, do you think in your gut that we're going to be staring at a shutdown right before Christmas?
No, I think it's more likely there'll be a short-term continuing resolution, which is not good policy, but I think that's more likely. And look, again, I think if we focus on what we're all interested in, I hope, which is a secure border, by the way, not just for immigration, but also for drugs, also for trafficking. There's reasons you want to have a secure southern border. Then I think we can get there. If it becomes all about politics, you know, then it's much harder. But I think we have to focus on the reality that our immigration system is broken, and one part of it that's broken is not having a secure border. There's also another way to get at this, and you know, I've proposed this in the past, which is let's do something on the DACA young people who are here, in addition to the secure border, since there seems to be a bipartisan consensus around that.
Real quickly, Senator, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Michael Cohen, the president's former personal lawyer, is going to jail for 3 years. A lot of people are saying this is a worrisome development for the president, that he should be worried. Do you think he should be worried?
Well, I don't know. I've heard just the opposite too, which is that if he hadn't gone to jail, the president should be worried, because then that means that he's been working with the prosecutors more. So I can't read the tea leaves, Neil. We have to wait and see how it all settles out.
Do you worry, though, that this goes on and on and on? The president certainly does.
Well, look, I support Mueller getting to the bottom of it. Let's let him follow the facts where they may lead, but let's get on with it. In other words, it's been too long, and that's typical with these special counsels or independent counsels before this. And so we need to wrap things up, and I do think that would be good for the country to move forward. Yes, allow him to do his work without political interference, but let's wrap this up. And we really need to find out what the Russians did with regard to the 2016 elections and what we can do to prevent it from happening in the 2020 elections. To me, that is the core issue that was supposedly, the start of all this, was how to keep the Russians from interfering in our democratic process.
So you don't agree with some of your colleagues, including a couple of Republicans, Jeff Flake among them, who want to make sure you approve a measure, the Senate approves a measure to protect Bob Mueller in case the president wants to fire the guy?
Well, I think, under the Constitution, the president has the ability to hire and fire the executive branch. So I don't think that's constitutional, and I don't think the president would sign it anyway. So, I don't think that's as useful an exercise as saying, as a group, let's allow this investigation to come to conclusion, but let's take it to conclusion quickly. Let's wrap these things up, and let's let the chips fall where they may.
But you would personally not be happy with the president if he even entertained firing the guy?
I don't think that's smart.
Okay.
No.
Senator, thank you very, very much. Good catching up with you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right.